Во тема на денот, како што најавив, моја гостинка, американската амбасадорка во земјава Анџела Агелер. Welcome, Ambassador. Thank you for being with us this evening. It's always a pleasure to hear your thoughts and your positions on important issues for our country.
Thank you so much, Slavica. And I am reminded that I had my first interview with you when I arrived about 3 years ago. And I'm delighted that we have a chance, especially at the end of the year, as we look back on 2025, to have a chance to have a conversation with you. So very much my pleasure.
And it was an important year, I think, for the country and globally, so many topics to discuss.
Yeah.
I will start with the EU integration. Not much has changed since the last time we talked about that. The current government rejects to implement the constitutional changes. They are arguing that they will first secure guarantees or a better solution, but we don't see anything concrete happening at the moment. How do you see the current situation where Macedonia is on the EU integration path?
I think it's a great question, and one that I know the people of this country are following very closely every day, because it's so critically important, and we have been very clear as the United States that North Macedonia's place is in Europe. You are in the heart of Europe. One need only look at a map to understand how important that is. And it's critical for trade, it's critical for security, as we look at corridors 8 and 10 and the national security of this country and the region. It's very important for the transatlantic relationship. So it's something that we follow very closely and are also very clear, look, this is where you belong. The European Union is the natural home of this country. That said, I know that this government is having conversations. They are having frequent conversations with member state countries, with leaders within the European Union, the European Commission, and are genuinely seeking ways forward. Would we all like to see more progress and more immediate results? I think so, yes. And I also believe that it's important to bear in mind that even with those conversations that are going on about accession and about EU memberships, that should not stall in any way the efforts that are needed that are very much a part of that process in terms of reforms. Yeah. And there are reforms needed, and frankly, the path is very clear. So whether accession has started or not, it's still very clear what you need to do to meet those. The roadmap is there, and so I think we would all like to see more progress on that front. And frankly, in terms of voters, both are very important, and they want to. The citizens of this country have said time and again through their votes and through their expressions that they want this country to make progress. And these are the issues in which they want to see progress. It's the economy, it's opportunity, and all of those things. It's rule of law, and they want to see those, and there's no reason not to move forward in those areas.
Yes, I would like to talk a lot, a big portion of this interview about reforms, but I would just like to finish the part with Bulgaria as an obstacle to get in the process formally of negotiating. We can see that there is a political crisis in our neighboring country that will probably prolong the process, the possible dialogue between the two countries to find a solution. Do you think time is working for us or against us?
That's a really interesting question, and I asked myself the same thing when I saw most recently, about 10 days ago, the dynamics that are going on across Bulgaria. I'm the U.S. ambassador to North Macedonia. It would be inappropriate for me to talk extensively about that. But this should be something, it shouldn't be stalled. And we have seen this with your neighbors several times now, where the government has changed, where elections have taken place. That shouldn't shut the whole process down. And it is my hope that there are those of goodwill, and actually my belief that there are those of goodwill on both sides of the border that want to see this, because frankly, North Macedonia being in the European Union is to everyone's benefits, including their neighbors. And we have seen that so clearly with Greece, for example. For years and years, this country had issues with Greece. Now they are a tremendous economic partner, security partner, military partner, And there's no reason not to move forward with that with Bulgaria as well. It's our fondest hope that they're able to find a way forward with that because, again, it's in the best interests of both.
We know geography, the United States are not in the European Union, you cannot help us formally, but how about informally? Do you think that the US administration can help this process given the influence that it has in Brussels and especially in the region?
Look, we will always be and have been really stalwart supporters, friends, and allies of this country, as we are actually with Bulgaria. And so will the United States step in to be a moderator? I wouldn't expect it anytime soon. However, do we watch very closely? And as you and I have discussed, you know, Washington is very interested in what happens in this country. The foreign minister in particular, but the prime minister as well, and other ministers have made trips to the United States, have excellent contacts with the most senior officials in Washington, have really good conversations that they have frequently at summits at various parts of around the world. And so there is attention paid and there is genuine concern and interest and supportive interest in what happens in this country. That's always an opportunity. But we also want to make sure that the country, the government, is doing what is best for the interests of its people and its voters, and we continue to watch that very closely.
Yes, we have adopted the reform agenda.
Yep.
Some things have been done, but not all according to calendar, I would say. You're not formally part of that process as we discussed, but you have invested billions and billions of American dollars in the reforms in this country. The last time we spoke in an interview, you expressed some kind of frustration with what kind of return of investment we're getting on those invested money. How do you see the process of reforms in Macedonia at the moment?
Well, to say billions and billions is probably an overstatement, but we certainly have invested a great deal in this country because we believe in it. We believe in the shared values that we have with North Macedonia, with its citizens, and we share their concerns and their, frankly, hopes and dreams because they reflect ours as well as Americans. And so we want to do what we can, but you're absolutely right. We have invested in the judiciary alone, $500 million over the course of the independence of this country and our relationship. And frankly, the state of affairs within the judiciary is worse than when I was here the first time. And that is reflected in the confidence of the citizens of this country when they talk about the judiciary. And it's very easy for one side or the other to say it's the blame of the judges, it's the blame of prosecutors, it's the blame of whatever ministry. And the fact is, it is the responsibility of the government to take a hard look at what's happening and make changes where they have to happen. Because the citizens of this country have demanded that through their vote. They did it first in the parliamentary and presidential elections over a year and a half ago, and I believe they did it again with the municipal elections. And they want to see results now. And it's great to talk about things, but they want to look at a process, at a judicial process, understand it, and understand why those decisions were made. If they could do that every day with the cases that they see, whether they are criminal cases, whether they are corruption cases, whether it's Kocani, that they can look at an ongoing case that they care about, and they may not agree, but understand why decisions were made.
How important is this case of the fire of Kocani, in your opinion, for restoring or further eroding the trust in the judiciary and justice?
I think there's an enormous focus on that case, and rightfully so. It's the most heartbreaking thing that has happened since I have been here. It is incredibly emotional, and I believe it is an opportunity to show all of the citizens of this country, because frankly, this is a small country, Everyone was affected by Kocani. I don't know a single person I've met that didn't know someone affected. And so here is an opportunity for the judiciary to say, whatever has happened up until these moments, this is our opportunity to say to those victims, to say to the families of those that were lost, to say to that community, and to say to all of the other citizens, we're going to do this right. It might not be fast. Justice is not always fast. But to help people understand and see that we are doing this in a careful, in a respectful, but in a determined and committed way that is transparent. That's an opportunity for the judiciary in this country, for the government to say, we get it. This was a scar for everyone. Now let's do this right. And let's do it with the respect and care and the legal structures that we have at hand.
This case only once again proved how widespread the corruption in the country is, unfortunately. Personally, and I think a lot of people felt like that after the tragedy, we all said, like, if the system doesn't change after this, it will never really transform and change. But as time goes by, you know, people get back to their old habits, and corruption is really persistent in our society. Do you see true will within the society, and especially within the government, because those are the ones that are supposed to push for those changes and transformations? Do you see that true political will to transform the society, and especially to fight against corruption?
I certainly see those within the government and those within the judiciary, frankly, who are very committed to that. And I applaud them and thank them, because frankly, they sometimes are the voices in the wilderness. What I hope happens is that more gather around them, because it's the right thing to do. There are some things that are simply that. They're the right things to do. And this is a case where there are those who are very committed to doing right by these families, these victims, this community. But it has to be a pretty concerted team effort to get there. And I truly, truly hope that more people come together to make sure that happens.
In general, do you think that the fight against corruption progresses or stagnates in our country?
You know what, first of all, I'm an American, so I'm an optimist. But I truly believe, and I have noticed, especially in the last probably several months, that, and part of it was, I think, Kocani, that there is a level of awareness and also a level of recognition that was not there before. Now, that is balanced by also a level of fatigue. Because as I travel around the country and talk to students, talk to parents, talk to, mayors and those who are living their daily lives, there's sometimes you hear a real resignation. This is just what it is, and nothing will change. But interestingly enough, in recent months, and part of it was the municipal elections, because I think we see some new young leaders that have said, nope, we're going to do things differently, which I think is really interesting and really hopeful. But people are talking about it now in a way that says, we're not only aware of it, but we're really watching maybe a little more closely than we were before. And I think demanding of your elected officials accountability is an incredibly powerful thing. And I hope more people do that. And whether you're talking about your local council, whether you're talking about, and not just elected officials, whether you're talking about teachers, whether you're talking about doctors, holding people to account. You're being paid to do a certain thing, do your job.
I like that, and I hope that there will be more and more pressure on officials to deliver on their promises and to work according to law first of all. We hear a lot of political party press conferences with claims about corruption, pointing fingers at each other. You are corrupted, no, you are more corrupted, stuff like that. But we don't see the accountability. We don't see any effect going out of that, except for people being more and more disappointed in politics and in institutions. And I think that's not a good way in which political parties operate at the moment. We can see that the state public prosecutor resigned after the government started a procedure to dismiss him from the position. Do you think that it's about personal, who is holding the chair? Is that the most important, or do we need more systematic reforms when it comes to judiciary and prosecution? What is your stance on that?
Well, I just heard that. You and I just heard it a few minutes ago. And it's an interesting development that we will certainly hope to learn more about. One thing that I find unhelpful is, and this is true of any country, this happens in the United States as well. What I find unhelpful is to have different parties disagree just to disagree. And one thing that I think is useful is when politicians, political leaders, at whatever level, to say, I disagree with my opponent, whether I'm in the government or the opposition, because of this. And what I think we should do is that, to have something that isn't just a, as we say in the US, just sort of, I know you are, but what am I kind of argument, where you just go back and forth and I will, no matter what you say, I'm going to disagree with you just because we're on the opposite side. Nothing is accomplished by that. But to come forward and actually have a plan. And so simply saying, I'm going to just contradict anything that you say because we're in different political parties is unhelpful to everybody. So what do you want to see accomplished? And I think that's what voters want too. I am so struck by this, especially by young people. The number of young people who were saying, the issues that some of the politicians talk about, I don't care. I care about the economy. I care about what job opportunities there are for me. So you all are arguing about all of these things that don't affect my life. So talk about the things that affect my health care, my security, my economic opportunities here, and the jobs for my kids, all of these opportunities, and what you're doing to bring hope to this country and hope to its people to make it stronger, more prosperous, and more secure.
The last topic that polarized political parties, I don't know about society, but political parties, is migration. The leader of the opposition opened the topic of migrants, framing it as a major security and political issue. How does the United States perceive this debate?
Well, I don't think many people are in Washington or tracking the debate here. Migration is a huge issue. Migration is an enormous issue in the United States right now, and we have that conversation with a lot of countries. It's a normal thing to do, so the existence of a conversation does not make policy. I certainly can't speak for any conversations that the United Kingdom has had, but I assume and know that they, like us, have those conversations with all sorts of countries. This is an issue that countries are struggling with. And so, of course, you talk to your friends and allies and partners about how are we handling this together. Again, what I don't think is helpful is just to come out on one side of any issue, including one that's as important as migration, simply to try and make political points. I don't think that's productive. I think serious conversations, serious productive conversations should be taking place on an issue that is this important. It's a real disservice to the people of this country to simply make it a political issue.
Yes, Ambassador, when it's for the end of this interview to discuss the Macedonian and U.S. friendship, and partnership. You always describe our country as a reliable partner. What does that partnership look like in practical terms today, and in which sectors do you recognize the most powerful partnership that we have?
Well, thank you for that, and it is really important, and it is something that I have been just so really honored to be a part of this year, especially because it's our 30-year anniversary. And of course, our partnership and friendship goes back further than that. This is just our bilateral relationship. And, you know, in every sector, even ones where we desperately need more work, like the judiciary, we still have so much interaction and so much that we share, including our concerns about its current state. I look to, for example, our military relationship, which is, I think, a real model for other countries of how to work together to support not only each other but NATO. I believe that this country has done a remarkable job joining NATO so quickly, so rapidly meeting its 2% requirements, so quickly stepping up to host different events at Krivolak, to host partner nations in their training, to undertaking and undergoing some of the most complex training and exercises this past year. So that's an extraordinary one. We've done remarkable things in terms of education. There's a lot of work to do there as well, but through exchanges and through partnerships, our shared respect for the cultural heritage of this country is remarkable, and we continue to work in those efforts too. So I don't think there's a single sector or aspect of life within our countries that we don't share different concerns. And I really welcome the focus on economic growth. This is something that benefits both of our countries. We are starting to see increased interest in investment from big U.S. companies, and I'd like to see more, because I think we have shown that we're good together, that our partnership is really one that we both get a lot out of. And so there's so many things to be pleased about as we look at the end of 2025, and I just want to continue to build on those as the American ambassador here.
Ambassador, thank you very much for your openness, your directness, and your continued support for a more resilient, democratic, and European country.
Thank you, Slavica, and thank you so much for letting me answer questions.
Thank you once again. Thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you.